Lake Hannah, a darn good read original. It was about time that we were selling our cabin near the lake. It used to bring us some of the most amazing memories, but now it reminded us of the worst moment in our lives. I say us, but my wife and I really haven't been together the last 2 years. Really, we haven't been together since the night that our 7-year-old daughter, Hannah, disappeared. It's hard to imagine that today she would be 9 years old. I was going to stay here at the cabin for a couple of nights, just to finalize the sale of the property. I didn't like the idea of being here, but I needed the money. Every single thing was a constant reminder of Hannah. This was the last place I had seen her. It always struck me as bizarre, the way she vanished. I said goodnight like I always did and closed her door. The next morning she was just gone. My first day, I kept myself pretty busy. I was preoccupied packing up boxes and bringing them to my car. I only shed a couple of tears when I found some of Hannah's old clothing. The entire time I was packing, I kept an eye out for Hannah's old teddy bear, which had gone missing just as she did. I guess I felt as if I found the bear. I may have felt like I found a piece of her. As the sun crept down and the day was getting late, I finally decided to call it. I made my way to the master bedroom, threw on some sweats, and plopped down in bed. It wasn't before long my eyes were too heavy to continue, so I turned out the light and quickly fell asleep. A sudden thump woke me from my slumber. I threw on my slippers and made my way across the room. As I opened my door, I said, "If there is anybody in here, leave now. I have a gun, and the police are on the way." I paused for a moment and waited for a response. Nothing came, so I crept my way downstairs. The tension came to a halt when I saw what had made the noise. One of the boxes I had filled and poorly stacked had fallen. The contents littered across the floor. Among them were some trinkets I had packed away from Hannah's room. I sighed in relief, then continued through the house, just to double check that I had locked up properly. Nothing seemed out of place, and everything was locked tight. Still exhausted from the day before, I made my way back up the stairs. I turned out the light and shuffled across the room. I was frozen stiff as I glanced out the window. Through the heavy fog, but as clear as day, was Hannah's old teddy bear, just sitting on the patio table, nonchalantly like it had always been there. It was impossible. I sat there earlier in the day when I took a break to have some lunch. It definitely was not there. I don't really know what came over me, but I turned and ran out of the back door. In complete darkness, I sprinted across the house. I busted out the back door, not bothering to close it behind me. As I approached the table, I slowed to a stop. The bear was nowhere to be seen. I checked the immediate area, and my search came up empty. I let out an audible laugh at myself. I guess I didn't realize how exhausted I really am, or how much just being here took its toll on my emotions. I made my way back inside, more than ready to finally get to sleep. I sat down on my bed, kicked off my slippers, and promptly fell asleep. I woke around noon, much later than I usually do. I took a minute to stretch before I got up. As I did, I noticed a set of footprints at the door. The muddy footprints led across the room and stopped at the closet door. Fear took over me as I shot out of bed and grabbed the knife from my nightstand. I crept across the room, tiptoeing every step of the way. I reached out for the doorknob as I raised the knife. I pulled the door open, waiting to find an intruder inside. I didn't. Inside the closet was an item hidden away in solitude: Hannah's teddy bear. A wave of emotion crashed over me as a million questions flooded my mind. Who put this here? Is Hannah still alive? Had she been hiding here this entire time? Was she in the room with me last night? As I held the bear, I felt like my entire world was spiraling out of control. I became dizzy and dropped in a fit of hysteria. Soon, my consciousness faded until I was still on the floor. By the time I came around, the sun had already set. I looked at the clock. It read 11 o'clock. I slowly got to my feet to grab my phone so I could call the police. I couldn't find it anywhere. I soon gave in and decided to search my house. I looked in every nook and cranny, checked every window and door in the process. My phone was absolutely missing. With the night getting late, I wanted to call it so I can get an early start on the next day. I had a meeting with the realtor in the morning and would find my phone when the alarm went off. Still in my sweats from the night before, I crawled into bed. I clutched tight to Hannah's bear as I drifted off to sleep. I was having a dream where Hannah, my wife, and I were having lunch at the table out back when my ringtone pulled me out of the dream. I sat up in bed to look for my phone. It was still sometime in the middle of the night. I got up to search for my phone that sounded like it was coming from the closet across the room. I glanced out the window as I did, where I saw a shadowy figure sitting at the patio table. It took a moment for my eyes to adjust. When they did, I could see her, Hannah, my little girl, sitting at the table, kicking her legs back and forth. I ripped open the window and in a gentle but loud enough voice said, "Hannah, baby, it's Daddy. Stay right there. I'm coming for you." Her head turned slowly toward me and cocked to the side. She stood up and started to skip toward the lake. I don't remember how I even got outside. I was in a dead sprint right for the lake. As I approached, I saw her waist deep in the water, wading deeper. I leapt into the water after Hannah. The water is now up to her shoulders. She was just a couple of feet away from me now, her head sunk under the water. I dove after where she had last been standing. Frantically, I searched around for her in the murky water. "Daddy, stay with us," I heard her sweet voice from behind me. "It's just you and me, baby. I've got you. I'm never going to let you go," I said back. She just stood there and pointed behind me. I could feel the water moving. Before I could turn around, I felt a heavy weight on my shoulder. It spun me around to face it. The muddy water of the lake rose to the shape of a human. I shoved hard to break free, but my arm went right through the water. I pulled and pulled to free myself, but the lake had started to consume me. Eventually, it encompassed me, and my vision faded to black. I know now that I can never go far from the lake. I am, at the very least, a part of the lake. I think I'm okay with this, though. I'll get to spend forever with Hannah.